Chapter 13. A Glimmer in the Dark. The Prometheus approached the source of the distress signal with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Elena stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the view screen as the ship dropped out of warp, the stars snapping back into focus like pinpricks of light against the endless black. At first, there was nothing, just the vast emptiness of space stretching out before them. But then, as the ship's sensors began to scan the area, a shape emerged from the darkness, a silhouette that grew clearer and more defined with each passing second. It was a ship, but unlike any Elena had ever seen before. It was massive, easily dwarfing the Prometheus in size and scale, its hull a patchwork of strange geometries and alien alloys. And yet, despite its otherworldly appearance, there was something strangely familiar about it, something that tugged at the edges of Elena's memory. As the Prometheus drew closer, the details of the ship began to come into focus. Its hull was scarred and pitted, the signs of a long and difficult journey etched into every surface. But what caught Elena's attention was the insignia emblazoned on the ship's flank, a symbol that she had seen 1,000 times before. It was the logo of the Global Space Agency, the same organization that had sent the Prometheus on its mission all those years ago. But how was that possible? The Prometheus was supposed to be the first and only ship of its kind, a desperate attempt to save humanity from the brink of extinction. As Elena pondered the implications of this discovery, the ship's comm system crackled to life, a burst of static that resolved into a voice, weak and distorted, but unmistakably human. "This is Captain Mikhail Volkov of the GSS Novgorod," the voice said, a note of desperation creeping into every word. "To any ships in range, we are in need of immediate assistance. Our life support systems are failing, and we have wounded on board. Please, if anyone can hear this, help us." Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she listened to the message, her mind racing with possibilities. The Novgorod? She had never heard of such a ship, and yet the name carried a weight of history and meaning that she could not ignore. She turned to her crew, her eyes alight with a newfound sense of purpose. "Prep the shuttles and ready the medical teams," she said, her voice steady and commanding. "We're going to help them." As the crew scrambled to carry out her orders, Elena felt a flicker of hope stirring in her chest. After all the hardships and challenges they had faced, after all the sacrifices they had made, perhaps this was the breakthrough they had been searching for all along. For if there was another ship out there, another group of survivors who had braved the void in search of a new beginning, then perhaps they were not as alone as they had thought. Perhaps there was still a chance for humanity to find a way forward, to build a new future from the ashes of the old. As the Prometheus moved into position alongside the Novgorod, Elena felt a sense of destiny settling over her like a mantle. She did not know what challenges lay ahead, what secrets the Novgorod and its crew might hold. But she knew that she would face them with the same determination and resilience that had brought them this far. For in the end, that was all any of them could do. To keep pushing forward, to keep reaching for the stars, no matter how dark the night might seem. And as the first of the Prometheus's shuttles began to dock with the Novgorod, Elena knew that their journey was far from over. But for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope, a flicker of light in the darkness that had engulfed them for so long. For in the vastness of space, even the smallest spark could become a blaze, a beacon of hope that could light the way forward for all of them. And as long as they had each other, as long as they had the courage to keep fighting, Elena knew that they would never be truly lost. The Prometheus had found the Novgorod, and with it, a new chapter in their story had begun. And whatever challenges lay ahead, Elena knew that they would face them together, united by the bonds of their shared humanity and the unbreakable spirit that had brought them this far. For in the end, that was the true legacy of the Prometheus and all those who had sailed aboard her, a legacy of hope, of resilience, of the indomitable will to survive and thrive in the face of any odds. And as the two ships hung in the void, their fate intertwined by the currents of chance and destiny, Elena knew that their story was far from over. It was only just beginning. Chapter 14, Echoes of the Past. As the shuttle docked with the Novgorod, Elena felt a sense of unease washing over her. The ship was dark and silent, its corridors empty and lifeless. The only sound was the soft hum of the shuttle's engines and the steady rhythm of her own heartbeat. She stepped out of the airlock, her boots ringing against the metal deck plates. Behind her, the rest of the boarding party fanned out, their weapons at the ready. They moved cautiously, their eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. But there was nothing, just the eerie stillness of a ship that had been abandoned long ago. As they made their way deeper into the vessel, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that some unseen presence was tracking their every move. And then, as they rounded a corner, they saw it. Bodies, dozens of them, sprawled across the floor in a tangle of limbs and twisted metal. They were clad in the same uniforms as the crew of the Prometheus, their faces contorted in expressions of pain and terror. Elena felt bile rising in her throat as she took in the scene, her mind reeling with questions. What had happened here? What could have caused such devastation? As she knelt beside one of the bodies, she noticed something clutched in its hand. It was a data pad, its screen cracked and splintered. With trembling fingers, she pried it loose, her eyes scanning the contents with growing horror. It was a log entry, dated nearly a century earlier. The words were garbled and distorted, but the meaning was clear. The Novgorod had been sent out as a backup to the Prometheus, a failsafe in case the primary mission failed. But something had gone wrong, some terrible calamity that had claimed the lives of the entire crew. The log spoke of a sickness that had swept through the ship, a plague that had driven the crew mad with fear and paranoia. And then, in the final entry, a single word stood out, a name that sent a chill down Elena's spine. Prometheus. She looked up, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. The Novgorod had known about the Prometheus, had been sent to find it. But why? And what did it mean for their own mission? As she pondered the implications of this revelation, a sound echoed through the ship, a low, mournful wail that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Elena felt the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end, a primal terror gripping her heart. And then, from the shadows, they emerged. Figures clad in the tattered remains of pressure suits, their faces twisted into grotesque masks of rage and madness. They moved with a jerky, staccato gait, their limbs twitching and spasming as if controlled by some unseen puppeteer. Elena and her team reacted instinctively, their weapons snapping up to firing position. But the creatures kept coming, heedless of the bullets that tore through their flesh. They were relentless, implacable, driven by some unholy hunger that could never be sated. As the battle raged around her, Elena felt a sense of despair washing over her. They had come so far, had sacrificed so much, only to be confronted by this new and terrifying threat. But even as the despair threatened to overwhelm her, she felt a flicker of something else, a spark of determination that refused to be extinguished. She had not come this far to give up now, to let the Prometheus and all those who had sailed aboard her be forgotten. With a final burst of energy, she rallied her team, her voice ringing out over the chaos of the battle. They would not go quietly into the night, would not let this ship and its secrets claim them as it had claimed so many others. They fought with a savage fury, their weapons blazing as they cut down the creatures one by one. And as the last of them fell, as the silence of the Novgorod once again settled over them like a shroud, Elena knew that they had won more than just a battle. They had won a chance to uncover the truth, to learn the secrets that the Novgorod and its doomed crew had taken to their graves. And whatever those secrets might be, Elena knew that they would face them together, united by the bonds of their shared struggle and the unbreakable will to survive. For in the end, that was all any of them could do. To keep fighting, to keep searching for answers, no matter how dark the path might seem. And as Elena and her team made their way back to the Prometheus, the weight of the Novgorod's mysteries hanging heavy on their shoulders, she knew that their journey was far from over. But for now, they had survived, had beaten back the darkness that had threatened to consume them. And that, in itself, was a victory worth celebrating, a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit. The Novgorod had revealed its secrets, and with them, a new chapter in the story of the Prometheus had begun. And whatever twists and turns that story might take, Elena knew that they would face them head-on, ready to confront whatever challenges the universe might throw their way. For in the vastness of space, anything was possible, and the only limits were those of the human imagination itself. And as long as they had that, as long as they had the courage to keep dreaming and reaching for the stars, Elena knew that nothing could ever truly defeat them. The Novgorod was behind them now, but the journey of the Prometheus was far from over. And as Elena looked out at the stars, she felt a sense of excitement and wonder washing over her, a feeling that anything was possible, that the universe was theirs to explore and discover. And so, with a deep breath and a steady hand, she set a course for the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead with courage, determination, and an unshakable faith in the power of the human spirit to overcome any obstacle, no matter how great or small. The Prometheus sailed on, a tiny spark of light in the infinite darkness of space, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of all those who had come before and all those who would follow in the centuries to come. And though the road ahead was long and fraught with danger, Elena knew that they would never stop fighting, never stop searching for a way to build a better future for all of humanity. For in the end, that was the true legacy of the Prometheus, and of all those who had given their lives to make her voyage possible. A legacy of hope, of courage, and of the unbreakable bond that united them all, no matter how far they might travel or how long they might be apart. And as the ship disappeared into the void, the stars shining down upon her like a million distant suns, Elena knew that their story was only just beginning, and that the greatest adventures of all still lay ahead, waiting to be discovered in the vast and endless reaches of the universe itself. Chapter 15. Ghosts of the Future. The Prometheus hung in space, a silent sentinel against the backdrop of the stars. Inside the ship, the crew worked feverishly to unravel the mysteries of the Novgorod, poring over the data they had recovered from the doomed vessel. Elena sat in her quarters, her eyes fixed on the screen before her. She had been studying the logs and records of the Novgorod for hours, searching for any clue that might shed light on the fate of its crew. But the more she read, the more confused and unsettled she became. The logs spoke of strange anomalies, of inexplicable phenomena that defied all known laws of physics. There were mentions of ghostly apparitions, of crew members who had vanished without a trace, only to reappear days later, their minds broken and their bodies racked with a strange, wasting illness. And then there were the whispers, the rumors that had circulated among the crew in the final days before the Novgorod's disappearance. They spoke of a presence aboard the ship, an entity that moved through the corridors like a shadow, leaving madness and despair in its wake. Some claimed it was a demon, a malevolent spirit that had attached itself to the ship and its crew. Others believed it was something else entirely, a manifestation of some dark and twisted force that lurked at the very edge of human understanding. As Elena delved deeper into the records, she felt a growing sense of unease, a feeling that she was treading on the edge of something vast and terrifying. And then, buried deep within the data, she found something that made her blood run cold. It was a single image, a grainy, distorted photograph that had been taken by one of the Novgorod security cameras. It showed a figure, tall and gaunt, its features hidden beneath a tattered hood. But what caught Elena's eye was the object clutched in the figure's hand, a device that was all too familiar to her. It was the same device that had been found in the ruins of the Novgorod, the same technology that had allowed the Prometheus to track the distress signal across the vastness of space. And in that moment, Elena knew that the two ships were connected, that the fate of the Novgorod and the Prometheus were inextricably linked. She leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with the implications of this discovery. If the Novgorod had possessed the same technology as the Prometheus, then what did that mean for their own mission? And what of the strange entity that had haunted the Novgorod's crew, the presence that had driven them to madness and despair? Elena knew that she had to find answers, had to uncover the truth behind the Novgorod and its mysterious passenger. But even as she set to work, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were all in terrible danger, that the entity that had destroyed the Novgorod was now stalking the halls of the Prometheus, waiting for its chance to strike. As the days turned to weeks and the weeks to months, Elena and her crew worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the Novgorod. They studied the ship's logs and records, analyzed its systems and technology, searching for any clue that might lead them to the truth. But the more they learned, the more terrifying the picture became. The Novgorod had not been just a simple backup to the Prometheus, but something far more sinister. It had been a test bed, a laboratory where the darkest aspects of human nature had been given free rein, where the boundaries of science and morality had been pushed to their breaking point. And at the center of it all was the entity, the nameless, faceless thing that had twisted the minds of the Novgorod's crew, turning them into its willing slaves. It was a being of pure darkness, a manifestation of the deepest, most primal fears that lurked within the human psyche. As the Prometheus pushed deeper into uncharted space, Elena knew that they were drawing ever closer to the source of the entity's power, to the place where it had been born in the heart of a dying star. And she knew that if they failed, if the entity was allowed to break free from its prison and spread its influence across the galaxy, then all of humanity would be lost, consumed by the same darkness that had claimed the Novgorod and its crew. But even in the face of this terrible knowledge, Elena refused to give up hope. She had come too far, had sacrificed too much to let the darkness win. And so, with a fierce determination burning in her heart, she led her crew onwards, deeper into the unknown, ready to face whatever horrors lay ahead. For she knew that the future of humanity depended on them, on their courage and their resolve. And she knew that no matter what challenges they might face, no matter how deep the darkness might grow, they would never stop fighting, never stop searching for a way to bring light to the universe once more. The Prometheus sailed on, a tiny spark of hope against the vast, uncaring emptiness of space. And though the road ahead was long and filled with danger, Elena knew that they would never give up, never surrender to the darkness that threatened to engulf them all. For in the end, that was the true measure of the human spirit, the unquenchable fire that burned within them all, driving them ever onwards, ever upwards, towards a future that was theirs to shape and theirs to claim. And as the stars watched from their silent, eternal vigil, Elena knew that the story of the Prometheus, and of all those who had given their lives to see her mission through, would echo through the ages, a testament to the indomitable will of the human race, and to the power of hope and love to triumph over even the deepest darkness. Chapter 16. The Heart of Darkness. As the Prometheus ventured deeper into the uncharted reaches of space, the weight of their discovery hung heavy on the crew's shoulders. The knowledge that they were not alone, that some ancient and malevolent force had been unleashed upon the universe, filled them with a sense of dread and foreboding. Elena spent long hours in her quarters, poring over the data they had recovered from the Novgorod, searching for any clue that might lead them to the source of the entity's power. She knew that time was running out, that with each passing moment, the darkness was growing stronger, its influence spreading like a cancer across the stars. And then, on the edge of a vast and empty expanse of space, they found it. A black hole, a tear in the fabric of the universe itself, its event horizon shimmering with an eerie, otherworldly light. And in the center of that maelstrom, a single point of darkness, a void that seemed to swallow all light and hope. Elena stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, her eyes fixed on the view screen, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that this was it, the moment of truth, the final confrontation between the forces of light and darkness. But even as she steeled herself for the battle to come, a voice echoed through the ship's intercom, a voice that sent chills down her spine. It was the voice of the entity, the nameless, faceless thing that had haunted the Novgorod and now threatened to consume them all. "You have come far, little ones," the voice whispered, its tone mocking and cruel. "But you cannot hope to stand against the power of the void. You are nothing, specks of dust in the wind, and I will swallow you whole." Elena felt a surge of anger and defiance welling up inside her, a fierce determination to stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. She turned to her crew, her eyes blazing with a fire that seemed to burn away all fear and doubt. "We will not surrender," she declared, her voice ringing out across the bridge. "We will not let this thing win. We are the last hope of humanity, the guardians of the light, and we will fight to our last breath to defend it." And with those words, the battle began. The Prometheus surged forward, its weapons blazing, its shields straining against the titanic forces that sought to tear it apart. The entity lashed out with tendrils of pure darkness, its power vast and terrible, but the crew of the Prometheus fought back with all the strength and courage they could muster. They fought with weapons and with words, with science and with faith, with every ounce of their being. And though the darkness was strong, though it seemed to go on forever, they refused to give in, refused to let it win. In the heart of the maelstrom, Elena stood tall, her eyes fixed on the void, her mind racing with desperate plans and last-ditch strategies. And then, in a moment of sudden clarity, she saw it, the weakness in the entity's defenses, the tiny flaw in its armor. With a shout of triumph, she guided the Prometheus forward, its weapons locked onto that single, vulnerable point. And as the ship plunged into the heart of the darkness, as the void swallowed them whole, Elena knew that they had won, that the light had triumphed over the darkness at last. But even as the crew of the Prometheus celebrated their victory, even as they emerged from the black hole battered but unbroken, they knew that their journey was far from over. For the universe was vast and full of wonders, and there were still so many mysteries to unravel, so many dangers to face. And yet, as Elena looked out at the stars, as she felt the warmth of her crew's presence beside her, she knew that they would never stop fighting, never stop searching for a way to bring hope and light to the cosmos. For that was the true legacy of the Prometheus, the unbreakable spirit of humanity, the will to endure and triumph against all odds. And so, with hearts full of courage and minds full of wonder, the crew of the Prometheus set out once more into the vast and endless reaches of space, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to discover the secrets of the universe and claim them for their own. For they were the heirs of the stars, the children of the light, and nothing, not even the deepest darkness, could stand against the power of their dreams and the strength of their unity. And though the road ahead was long and filled with peril, they knew that they would never falter, never waver in their determination to build a better future for all of humanity and for all the countless wonders that lay waiting to be found among the stars.